People are saying that JK and someone else has recently been body shamed and gay shamed, and we will get into all of that here today. We also have people talking about JK and this other person in bed together, as well as people talking about legal action that the label may or may not have taken. So, hey Dumplings, it's Dave Desai. Let's get into it. So there's this YouTube channel that has been under controversy. Now, the host of this YouTube channel was someone who was formerly an NBC reporter. They started out their career like that. I assume they presented news fairly unbiased. Typically, that is one of the code of ethics when it comes to journalism. But a lot of people get away with that by just doing things like calling it an op-ed or something like that. Like, obviously, my videos are a little bit biased, and it's because it's not just news. I'm giving my opinion. But when he started his YouTube channel, a lot of people were shocked at some of his views and some of the things that he said. And a lot of people believe that some of the things that are said are simply just done for attention. Now, as someone that is kind of in the space of reporting, I do kind of want to say, at least from my personal experience, a lot of far-right conservative podcasts / news pages are doing it for entertainment and for views. They know that by saying the most outlandish, craziest things about human rights and taking away people's rights, it will get a lot of attention. And a secret that most people don't realize is when you start seeing a celebrity or someone kind of feign in relevance a little bit, you might notice that they start to lean a lot more on the right side. And I don't mean right like on the correct side, I mean on the side of hating things, hating ethnicities, or maybe even other religions. For some reason, it works and it brings the celebrity or the person back into the limelight a little bit. I'm not saying that this is what happened to this reporter that we're talking about today. I don't know what happened, but I kind of wanted to give a little bit more context as to why people might do something like this. I also want to specify that not everyone who is on the right hates everything and hates everyone, but this is just the example that I'm using. Now, not too long ago, this reporter accused the BTS members, specifically 2 of them, of being a regular at a specific bar. There was an ongoing drug scandal with another group, and they were saying that the BTS members were associated with that. Now, the groups themselves that BTS was being compared to had talked about how they were not a part of that scandal, or that they weren't really doing what people thought that they were doing. So it's interesting to compare BTS to something that might have already even been denied altogether. The label was very quick to come out and deny these statements and quick to say that the boys have nothing to do with that scandal and they would sue if the channel continues to make defamatory statements like this. Flash forward to something that happened more recently. The channel was believed to be back in the limelight again and making other statements about other groups and things like that that were not great. This one involving a minor. These statements were not made of BTS, and I don't necessarily want to get into that specific story, but BTS was then brought into this conversation because he just wanted to bring BTS into it. People were talking about how he was going to get sued for talking about this situation that involves a minor, and the reporter allegedly responded and said, "Look what happened to BTS. They sued and now they all had to enlist." And this makes absolutely zero sense. I can't believe this is something that someone allegedly said. The boys have to go to the military regardless. That was always in the law, and when they were arguing whether the BTS members had to go to the military or not, the last thing they brought up in court was this YouTube channel. In fact, I would be surprised if the YouTube channel was even 0.1% of the conversation and the decision that the government made for BTS to enlist. It was believed the reason why he said this was because he was trying to say that people, if they take legal action on him, nothing is going to happen. In fact, it will backfire on whoever is taking the legal action. The thing is, I don't know necessarily if that's true because I don't even know if the label actually ever pursued the legal action. Because if the YouTube channel actually ended up stopping or taking down the content, or I don't know what they did with the label, but the label will just kind of let it go. And no company actually wants to pursue any sort of legal action that's going to end up with them making no money. It's a waste of everyone's time. It's a waste of the company's resources and their employees' time. So if everything can be fixed outside of court, typically most companies are going to want that. So him allegedly saying that was definitely interesting because I don't believe legal action was ever taken. So therefore, legal action was not a result of BTS needing to go to the military. This time I can't even really say that this is the fault of someone in the community or someone who's less educated or even someone who is very young, as obviously this person is a little bit older. There are reporters, so I'm assuming they've had some sort of education, and I think that this is kind of a wild thing, at least to be reported. And whether it's true or not, We don't know. However, sometimes the community does make things up that are very interesting. Sometimes it's infuriating, and other times I think it's just plain funny. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about here today. There's a lot of people who believe that Jimin and JK are in a relationship in the military. And so there are definitely a lot of people who have come out to make edits or make some sort of fan fiction or whatever about what the boys would do. One particular one that I thought was funny was just the images of soldiers that might be gay. I guess they could be brothers too. We don't know, but there were images of soldiers lying in bed together, snuggling, and that sort of stuff, and people were using it to say that this was what Jimin and JK are doing in the military. This, for the most part, definitely is a joke. I mean, there are a lot of people who want to believe that the two are dating, but they're saying this is a way to play on that fact, I believe. Now, while there are, of course, people who are joking about this, of course, there are going to be people who are very upset about it, or find it either offensive or just don't think it's a joke. And that's where the problem lies. Because I think some of these jokes sometimes fuel the ship, or people who believe the opposite aren't happy about the fact that there are people who want Jimin and JK to be together. Believing in either of these things I think is fine, and of course it's totally fine to have hobbies, and if that hobby is creating some sort of fantasy or story about people that you like, I don't think that there is anything inherently wrong about this. But if you get to a point where you're emotionally so attached to this fantasy that hasn't been proven, it hasn't been fully acknowledged yet by them, and you're devoting your entire life to it, it's likely disrupting your work, it's disrupting a lot of things, then people would categorize it as an addiction. You're addicted to this fantasy because maybe you're trying to escape from something in real life. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people nowadays that are trying to escape from reality because reality is crazy right now. However, there are healthier ways to deal with these situations, and I think there can be a need for professional intervention if not taken care of. There's also this rumor that apparently the two have continuously slept together or seen each other naked just due to the fact that they enlisted together, and this in fact then proves that the two are in a relationship together. Quite frankly, I don't really know how I feel about this, because you can definitely have your assumptions as to why you believe the two members might enlist together in the buddy system, but to assume that they're sleeping with each other based off of that is interesting. Now, are they likely seeing each other naked? Yes, but also probably no. Do you think that the two would always stand next to each other and shower and risk the other soldiers seeing them being naked and touching each other and doing whatever? Or is a military shower more so just a military shower? They go in, they spend 5 minutes, and then they leave, and there's no shenanigans going on, because people would spot that immediately and find that strange. They don't live in a world like in the US where if they were to be caught touching each other or even acting gay, and I don't mean touching each other in a way where they're just like sleeping with each other in the shower, but I mean even if they're just touching each other in the shower, like any touch, they could get in trouble for that in the US, because you're just supposed to be in the shower and then go. You're not supposed to be fooling around. You're not supposed to be joking with people. You're not supposed to be touching the person next to you. Now, keep in mind that since that is the US, that in Korea this would likely be a lot more stricter, because the military, at least up to until now, in the US was not as homophobic, but all of Korea is homophobic for the most part. A lot of laws are still homophobic, so there's no touching each other, looking at each other weirdly, or any of that stuff while they're in the shower. Of course, the same thing goes if the two had free time and wanted to lay next to each other or lay on top of each other or snuggle. That would definitely be forbidden, because people can see that. And keep in mind, in the military, you're never alone. Having privacy is a privilege that you don't always have. If you see some of the images that people have from the military, everything's open. I don't know how true this particular thing is, but I've seen pictures where there are no stalls, all the walls are taken down. Why they can't just build stalls and give soldiers privacy, I don't know, but apparently that's something that they don't want to do. Maybe it's to train for the fact that when you're out in the field, and if you're fighting and you're doing all of that stuff, you need to be comfortable with doing your business in front of other people and just do that. So no, I don't think that they have any opportunity or time to consistently be next to each other, touching each other, any of that stuff. And if there was any of that stuff, I think we would have heard it from the soldiers by now. Let me know what you think. Make sure to check out Patreon for more videos, link down below. Thank you to this lovely comment right here. Love you, bye.